Hey guys, what's up? How's everybody doing? Welcome back to No Huddle Fantasy Sports. Welcome back to the channel and another MLB DFS Slurve video here at No Huddle Fantasy Sports. Today is Monday, September 14th, 2020. We are talking baseball-specific DFS for the first time in over a week. I've taken some time off over Labor Day. I took a vacation there, so apologize to you guys if you've been looking for content. I've basically just taken a vacation. So we're back at it today on a Monday, and unfortunately, the day we are back, we have a pretty crappy slate, in my opinion. You can see here starting at 7:35 on the FanDuel app, which we always dive into here. We only have 3 total games. You have Atlanta playing in Baltimore starting at 7:35, followed by Minnesota at the Chicago White Sox. And the late night to cap it off, we have the Los Angeles Dodgers playing the San Diego Padres in San Diego. So only 3 total games. You're going to have to get creative here. Of course, this isn't my favorite slate simply because there's only 3 games. The pitching options are okay. You have Kershaw likely on the mound tonight. You have a decent pitcher in Lamet on the mound. And then you have some spots you can attack with bats. So it is an interesting night for only 3 games. I think this is the smallest slate I've ever had to put a content video out on. So again, I don't really like this. I wouldn't recommend you going too crazy tonight. But we will talk about it. As always, we put out MLB DFS content every single day, regardless of the slate. And we only have 3 games, so we're going to dive into it here. I think for this slate, since it is so different, it's only 3 games, we can basically just cut through every single game. Or I should say, let's just start at every single position. We'll just talk about my favorite plays, where I think you can go, where I think you should go. And so starting at the pitcher position, and I will mention right off the bat, there is no weather concerns, at least as far as I can tell. I did see there's some wind close to 10 miles per hour blowing in Atlanta. So that's kind of a little bit of an upgrade for the pitchers there. They're not the greatest pitchers. And then a little bit of a downgrade for the bats there that are pretty attractive, especially with some of the run lines. But starting at the pitching position here, really, you can go any which way you want on 3 games. So you have Kershaw, Lamet, and Berrios, all very good pitchers. Of course, Kershaw kind of the leader here at 10-6. Lamet very, very well so far this season in terms of pitching. He's 10-1. And then Berrios, if you want to save a little bit of money, in a difficult spot compared to the other guys pitching in Chicago against the White Sox, who actually have been hitting right-handers pretty well over the last couple of weeks. So where should you go? Again, I think you could just flip a coin here, pick the lowest of the owned. Kershaw right now is listed as the probable pitcher on FanDuel. I will say if you go over to other sites, if you go to the MLB specific probable pitcher site, there's not a pitcher listed for Los Angeles yet, and as a result, there's no actual line on this game. There's no projected runs. I do believe Kershaw will pitch. I think FanDuel has it right here. It's his 5th day, and he's an older guy. I shouldn't say older, but he's obviously a seasoned pitcher here. I don't think they're going to mess with his schedule too much, so he should be the guy coming in and pitching in San Diego. Now, I will say I do like him. If you want to pick one of the 3 guys as the safest option, I do think it's Kershaw, even though San Diego is a dangerous team, especially with a lot of their right-handed bats right now heating up or literally on fire for most of the season. But it's Clayton Kershaw. He's pitching in San Diego. San Diego is a pitcher's ballpark. Kershaw actually pitches better career-wise versus righties compared to lefties, which is a little bit unusual given Kershaw is a lefty. You do have to watch out for some of these bats. Of course, Tatis Jr., Myers is a guy that crushes righties. You have Machado in that lineup. There are a lot of right-handers in that San Diego lineup that are dangerous. But if you want my opinion, the safest guy on a 3-game slate is Kershaw. He's the most expensive guy also at 10-6. He's had a really good season. We did start him in his last start. He gave up 3 earned. Just really struggled to get through innings in that game and didn't get very many strikeouts versus Arizona after dominating them the first time through. But you can see here, he's pitched pretty much against just a couple of teams. Again, San Diego is a dangerous team, so watch out. But I will be, if I'm building multiple lineups, which I may do, I will have exposure to Kershaw. He'll probably be my highest exposure in terms of a pitcher. Lamet, you can, if you want to go there, you can, pitching at home. He's had a really, really good season. He pitched okay, I would say, against Los Angeles earlier in the season. Only had 2 strikeouts, though, and 1 earned run. So I think that's the downside to Lamet here. For $500 that you're saving, you're facing probably the best, if not one of the top best, Los Angeles Dodgers, I should say, lineups versus right-handers. Lamet is a righty. The Dodgers have a ton of lefties. They're Bellingers. They're getting healthy again. There's a ton of lefties in that lineup. I think last I looked, they are either second or third right now versus lefties in almost every single category, whether that's WOBA, whether that's their isolated power, they hit for power, they hit pitchers. Their WRC plus is really, really high, so it's a dangerous spot. Basically what I'm saying here is I believe the spot for Lamet is more dangerous than the spot for Kershaw. I could eat my words here. Now, if I'm building 1 or 2 lineups and I really want to take a chance in a tournament, I honestly would consider Berrios versus the White Sox. Now, the stats here, and I broke it down as much as I could. Berrios has pitched very well over the last several weeks. He struggled early in the season, including a start where he gave up 5 earned against the same team in Chicago. So yes, I think it's a dangerous spot, but because of that, because of the trends, because of the 2 guys you have above him, I think Berrios will be the lowest owned guy. Berrios carries a very high strikeout total, or strikeout percentage. He can strike out a lot of guys. You have a ton of right-handed strikeout guys in the Chicago White Sox lineup. More importantly, of all teams on this slate, the Chicago White Sox have the highest strikeout percentage to right-handed pitchers. So kind of I guess your yin and yang there. You have a high strikeout right-hander versus a high strikeout prone team versus right-handers. More specifically, though, they're 5th overall in baseball with 25% strikeout plus 25% strikeout rate versus righties. Now, I will say they are number 6 in baseball in almost all stats versus righties. So yeah, they strike out a lot, but they are a dangerous team. You see them put up crooked numbers all the time. So I think in terms of a high upside strikeout guy, if he can give up 1 or 2 runs, pitch kind of how he has over the last several weeks, this guy can touch double-digit strikeouts. Berrios is an interesting lineup or interesting option for tournaments. The only other guy, if you're just trying to jam in expensive bats, you could consider Toussaint, however you pronounce it here, a right-hander with not very good peripherals overall, has not pitched well over the last couple of weeks. I think you can exclude that Philadelphia game, but before that, had 9 earned runs across, 7 innings there. But before that, he's pitched decently well. And Baltimore is a sneaky team in terms of stacks. They've been able to put up numbers. They've been able to win games. As a team, they've been very impressive for what little expectations were for that Baltimore team. He is pitching on the road, which is a downside, but he's only $6,800. What I would say here is Baltimore is very average overall versus right-handed pitching. In fact, they're 15th overall with a 100 WRC plus, 322 WOBA, and 171 ISO. So all those numbers are at average or below average versus right-handers. Toussaint is much better versus righties than lefties. There's not a ton of lefties in that Baltimore lineup. I think you can possibly get away very, very risky here with a Toussaint lineup, however you pronounce it. I'm probably going to do it with 1, try to take some upside in a tournament here, and it helps you fit more expensive bats because I will tell you right now, if you're looking to stack Atlanta, especially Atlanta, Minnesota, those types of teams, it's going to be very hard to fit a full-blown stack with Kershaw, Lamet, and Berrios. I've already tried it. It is difficult. So those are kind of the pitchers I'm looking at. Again, you're talking 3 total games here, so you got to get creative. I think you're going to have to take some risk. Now, in terms of first base, really only a couple of guys I'm looking at. I think Freddie Freeman is almost a lock. He's one of my favorite one-off bats. I like Atlanta as a stack, but I do like Freddie Freeman in general. He's been crushing the ball. He's been crushing righties. The pitcher he faces, Lopez, if you rank the pitchers on this slate, he's one of the worst pitchers on the slate, probably would be one of the worst pitchers on most slates. So you like that. Obviously a left versus right matchup here for Freeman. In addition to that, Freeman has just been mauling righties all season long, but especially over the last couple of weeks. If you narrow it down to the last 7 or 14 days, Freeman has been really hitting the ball well. Outside of him, you can stick with that Atlanta game and go Travis d'Arnaud. If he gets the start, if he's batting 4th, he's been hitting the ball very well this season. More importantly, over the last couple of weeks, he's been hitting right-handers very well. So as a right-on-right bat, you could get some lower ownership here, possibly. $3,400 is a little bit pricey. But again, if he's going to get the start, if he's going to hit cleanup, I do like Travis d'Arnaud. Sticking with first baseman here, coming down the list, 2 other guys I will mention. Sano from Minnesota. If you're going to stack Minnesota and you want to get some exposure to right-handed bats, I don't mind Sano at all. He's facing Dylan Cease, not a very good pitcher. Or I guess he's pitched okay this season, but he's, in terms of this slate, not a very good pitcher. I think he's a guy you can attack. I would rather attack him with lefties, but I think you can attack him with both righties and lefties here. So I do like Sano as a lower-owned right-handed bat. And then a very, very, very random bat here. Hopefully he's not hitting 9th, but Will Smith has actually been hitting the ball very well over the last couple of weeks, especially versus right-handers. And I know it's a bad matchup. Lamet is a good pitcher, but if you want a one-off random bat, $3,000, get exposure to a Dodgers lineup that does take advantage of righties, I do like Will Smith. Bumping over to second base here, again, you're going to notice most of these guys are going to be Atlanta, Minnesota bats, but Albies, he's very expensive at $3,700. He's been turning it up lately, though, very, very well over the last couple of weeks. I don't think he's going to be batting ninth. He should slide up the order a little bit here at the very least. But in Baltimore, it's an away bat. I do like Atlanta as a stack. I think he fits very well with that Freeman there. Switch hitter, so it doesn't matter left or right. He's getting healthy. The whole Atlanta Braves lineup is getting healthy. I do like Albies off the bat there. Anyone else I would really consider, I guess, Gonzalez. He's going to give you that switch hitter for Minnesota. Saves you a lot of money at $2,500. I do like the position he's in tonight. And that's really it. I'm very, very narrow at second base. And that's mainly because there's not very many options. A lot of people have been playing Lux, lefty on righty here. He's okay. It's not anything I'm, I guess, overly attracted for. I would just rather jump down to Gonzalez, as I mentioned. In terms of third baseman, a couple of different ways you can go here. I do like Muncy. $3,900 is a little hard to swallow considering he's not having the greatest season. But if you want exposure to that Los Angeles Dodgers left-handed heavy lineup that does do damage versus right-handed pitching, I don't mind it here. Hopefully people will stray away simply because it's Lamet and they're going to actually pitch Lamet here. But I do like Max Muncy. Josh Donaldson in a good spot, hopefully hitting third or fourth again for Minnesota here. Has been hitting the ball well over the last couple of weeks. Also another guy that's starting to heat up. Not an ideal right-on-right matchup, but again, focusing on the pitcher here, Cease is not a very good pitcher as a right-hander. I have him, with a 326 WOBA to righties, a 453 to lefties. His xFIP is 4.5 to righties, so it's certainly not like this guy's eating up righties. I think you can get exposure to Donaldson here, and that's really it. Again, kind of narrow here. You don't have many options, but those are the two guys I'm focusing on at third base. Shortstop. You can go a number of different ways again. You can stick with your Los Angeles players here. Go with Corey Seager. Always a good matchup, left versus right. I think he is, in my opinion, the best bat for the Dodgers this year. Looks like he's been hitting higher in the order lately, typically hitting about 6th. But I do like Corey Seager always versus right-handers. $4,100. I think most people are going to be going Atlanta, Minnesota, which I don't blame them. I like both those stacks. So maybe Los Angeles as a stack here works out in your favor in terms of ownership. Another guy I want to mention here, Polanco for Minnesota. Switch hitter, typically hitting either first or second, depending on where Kepler is or if Kepler's in the lineup. But Polanco getting exposure to that Minnesota lineup, $2,900 is a great price on him. You're going to have to find some value here. I think you have value here at $2,900 with Polanco. Again, switch hitter, having a decent season, not showing a lot of power, but if you're getting exposure against Dylan Cease, this is certainly an easier way to get it. At $2,900, it gives you that left-on-right matchup. I already talked about Cease. Not very good. I mean, that's basically the bottom line. He's a 539 xFIP versus lefties, so I'm sure Polanco will be batting as a lefty versus him. Beyond that, it's a 479 to righties. 449 to righties. So, again, whether he bats left or right here, it's a good spot versus Cease. Those are the only two guys I'm really interested in at shortstop. Coming down to outfielders. Now, you can go a number of different ways with outfielders. Acuna Jr. is very expensive at $4,900. Just getting back to the lineup, too. So it's tough, but, I mean, he has been on an absolute tear since getting back into this lineup. You can see here, I mean, multiple home runs, has been hitting basically the hell out of the ball, but in a good spot. If you're going with that Atlanta stack, I think you got to go Acuna Jr. I think he's in a good spot again tonight in Baltimore versus Lopez. Lopez, in terms of versus righties, still struggles. 479 in terms of an xFIP, 309 WOBA, and he's only striking out 19% of right-handed bats. So all bad numbers for Lopez here. I do like Atlanta bats. I like the Atlanta stack, and I especially like Acuna Jr. Acuna Jr. and I think Freddie Freeman are my two favorite bats from that lineup. Of course, you can go Bellinger if you can still afford it, $4,400, getting you that Los Angeles Dodgers. I do like Nelson Cruz right on right here. A lot of people won't play him or don't play him when he's right on right. Now, you're talking 3 games, so he's naturally going to have ownership, but I do like the spot. I already talked about Cease several times. He struggles versus righties with a 450 xFIP. So, and on top of that, if you go back 7 or 14 days, depending on what you look at, what view you want, Nelson Cruz has been very good versus righties. This guy just ages like wine. So Ozuna, again, another guy you can get exposure to that Atlanta lineup. I think people will go mostly lefties, but you can certainly go with righties there. Coming down a little bit, Pollock has been hitting third or fourth for the Dodgers. He's listed as fifth here, but if you look at the actual game logs, third or fourth, has several home runs over the last couple of days. So I do like him at a cheaper price, a cheaper exposure to that Dodgers lineup. I like Kepler. I do like Kepler a lot here. Max Kepler leading off, $3,000. He has not been as hot as he was early in the season, but certainly a left-handed bat, you can get exposure against the Cease here. Adam Duvall. Now this guy, I will say this about him and Ozuna. Now, Adam Duvall is a righty on righty, does not have historically good numbers versus righties, but him and Ozuna are always the guys you don't play when they face a righty, and these guys hit home runs, if not multiple home runs. So my suggestion for Atlanta stacks, make sure you get your Duvalls and Ozuna exposure in those lineups. There are some injuries throughout the slate, I guess. Well, the first guy I'll talk about, as always, Jock Peterson. Left on right here versus Lamet. I mean, he'll probably strike out 4 times, but he's my dude. I'm going to play him at $2,800. Has a ridiculous ISO versus right-handers. Cave, another guy that's going to be in that lineup, left on right here for Minnesota. A little bit cheaper exposure. But the one guy I do want to mention is Lamont Wade Jr. He should be playing, I would think, in place of Rosario. So Rosario got injured yesterday. Should not be in the lineup tonight at the very least today, if not more days. And Lamont Wade Jr. was the guy that came in and replaced him. He also gets periodic starts. I do like him at $2,000. Really helps out your lineups. He's probably my favorite value bat on the night if he's in the lineup. Of course, I record these videos pretty early, so I don't have all the information in the world in terms of lineups and everything else. But that's kind of when you're looking at. Now, I will say, let's try to build a lineup here. If you go Berrios, I mentioned it becomes very difficult. My favorite stack is going to be Atlanta on the slate. So if you go with your Atlanta stack here and you talk about the guys that I mentioned from this video, Albies, Acuna Jr., you can see here we're already down to $2,500. Let's go with Wade, get you a little bit cheaper, $2,600. It becomes very, very quickly, it becomes hard to fit a lot of these bats in, as you can see. So you're going to have to get creative here. If you go Duvall, still $2,500. Bumping down, as I mentioned, to Toussaint really helps. But in general, I do like Atlanta as my number one stack. Following that up, I do like Minnesota. I mentioned a lot of players already. But if you go with Minnesota specifically, Minnesota bats, Sano, Cruz, Rosario won't be in the lineup, but Polanco is. And then I mentioned Wade Jr. And Kepler. So depending on where you want to go, how it works out with your lineups, I do think a Minnesota stack fits better with Berrios. It seems like the pitcher fits best with his own stack. That's kind of how things are lining up. And hopefully, just hopefully, because of how late lines are coming out, because of how much people are going to go Kershaw and Lament, I think you can get away with a lower-owned Los Angeles Dodgers stack. And to be honest with you, if you're talking leverage, if you're talking about a great team that can put up ridiculous runs, is great versus righties, I don't see how you can't take advantage of that here. So, but that's generally the thoughts on the slate. I know this video is kind of all over the place. Thought it would be easier to talk about every single position as opposed to just my favorite stacks, pitchers, and bats there. But in general, hopefully this video is helpful for you guys. Again, take it easy on the slate. It's not the greatest slate. You're going to see ridiculous ownership for guys that would never be owned in any other slate. So be careful. Don't spend a ton of money. If you guys enjoy NFL, if you played week 1, you'll notice I put out a video. The goal right now, I will be putting out MLB DFS videos just the same as always every single day through the rest of the season. It's pretty crazy. We're 3/4 of the way through the season already. But beyond that, we've launched DFS NFL content. And so the idea there would be about 3 videos a week, a sneak peek video talking about some of the lineups, a DraftKings Showdown video on Thursdays, and of course the main slate breakdown video, just like we do for baseball, will come out hopefully every Friday. So make sure you check that out. If you're new here, simply haven't done so already, I would really, really appreciate if you consider subscribing to the channel. We do really well in MLB DFS, and I intend to keep that ball rolling through the end of the season. In addition to that, I intend to do the same with NFL, also a great sport to participate in DFS in. Beyond that, make sure you give this video a like if you enjoy it, if it's helpful. Leave me some comments down below of some of your favorite plays tonight if you're considering playing. Again, take it easy tonight. Outside of that, good luck if you're playing, and I will catch you in the next video.